When it comes to creating a winner in the NFL, it all kind of starts from the top.
I met the owner of the Eagles, and it's very exciting.
We see, Jeffrey Lurie coming by, singing "We Are the Champions." Like, that's pretty awesome.
With the 2023 NFL season just around the corner, it's time for our annual rankings of all 32 team owners. Number 32, Michael Bidwell, Arizona Cardinals. Bidwell takes the last spot in our rankings 1 year after placing 20th on our list. Quite frankly, it is impossible to defend anything he's done up to this point. He was way too loyal to Steve Keim for a decade. He waited, maybe 2 years too long to fire Cliff Kingsbury? His new GM, Monty Austin-Ford, couldn't find a taker for DeAndre Hopkins, and he was released for nothing. Number 31, David Tepper, Carolina Panthers. We certainly admire Tepper's willingness to open his wallet for coaches and players, and for being mostly hands-off. But the fact remains that Carolina hasn't had a winning season under his ownership, going 29-53-0 over his first 3 seasons in charge. Yeah, Tepper's going near the very bottom unless his Panthers show any form of progress. Number 30, Woody and Christopher Johnson, New York Jets. These men will be near the very bottom of the list unless the Jets produce a Super Bowl anytime soon. Trading for Aaron Rodgers does not justify moving them up whatsoever. The Johnsons are just lucky that the Green Bay Packers were so willing to move on from their franchise star. This club enters 2023 with the longest active playoff drought, having last qualified in 2010. Yeah, you can point the finger at the men in charge for years of dysfunction. Number 29, Jimmy Haslam, Cleveland Browns. The Browns have gone 59-118-1 under Haslam's ownership with 1 playoff appearance and victory. His habits of constantly changing GMs and coaches, who in turn always change quarterbacks, simply hasn't worked. Still questioning the Browns' decision to run Baker Mayfield out of town and alienate a giant portion of their fan base by trading for Deshaun Watson. A real head-scratcher on that one. Number 28, the McCaskey family, Chicago Bears. Everybody loves the now 100-year-old Virginia Hallis McCaskey, who has owned the team since 1983. But being a good, wonderful person doesn't exactly make you a good owner, as exampled here. Virginia and her son George McCaskey, the team chairman, have recycled through coaches, GMs, and quarterbacks all too frequently over the past decade. The result? 2 playoff berths and 0 postseason wins since 2011. Number 27, McNair family, Houston Texans. Texans rebuild is on the right track, but let's not forget what the McNair family ownership did some years ago. They let the power-hungry Bill O'Brien destroy a consistent playoff team by forcing DeAndre Hopkins and J.J. Watt out of town. David Culley and Lovie Smith were one-and-done coaches in consecutive years. So what kind of model of continuity is that? Number 26, Rob Walton, Denver Broncos. Hey, respect to Walton for showing a willingness to spend big. See the Russell Wilson and Sean Payton additions. Walton's first year as a Broncos owner was an unexpected disaster, but it's also too soon to put him in the very bottom tier of NFL owners. If Wilson and the Broncos bounce back in 2023, Walton should find himself in the top 20 by next year. Number 25, Josh Harris, Washington Commanders. Congrats to the NFL's newest owner on cracking the top 25. Honestly, Harris is this high simply because he's not Dan Snyder. Oh, it is about time Snyder left town. That was a win for everybody in the NFL, even non-Commanders fans. Harris also owns the NHL's New Jersey Devils and NBA's Philadelphia 76ers, 2 championship contenders in their respective leagues. We don't doubt his ability to patiently build a winner in Washington. Also, side note, is he already the NFL's most universally loved owner just by not being Dan Snyder? Number 24, Shad Khan, Jacksonville Jaguars. The Jaguars only have 2 winning seasons and postseason berths under Khan, but recency has to be taken into account here. And the Jaguars really turned a corner last season with an AFC South Division title and stunning comeback playoff win over the Los Angeles Chargers. Khan wasted little time firing Urban Meyer. He let GM Trent Baalke go crazy in 2022 free agency, and that Doug Peterson hiring already looks like a franchise changer. If the Jaguars can take another step here in 2023, Khan will crack the top 20 next year despite an ownership mostly highlighted by dysfunction and double-digit loss seasons. Number 23, Mark Davis, Las Vegas Raiders. The Raiders haven't been downright terrible for a while now. I mean, they're at least competitive enough to win 7 to 10 games a year, but that's also kind of a problem. Davis has been pleased enough with mediocrity and the mushy middle. Bringing back John Gruden and giving him full control over player personnel decisions was an absolute disaster. Parting ways with interim head coach Rich Bisaccia after he led the Raiders to the playoffs in 2021 was also something. So yeah, it's hard to rank Mark Davis any higher than this. Number 22, Jim Irsay, Indianapolis Colts. Irsay actually cares about winning and doesn't hide from the media. He deserves credit for being honest and open, but at the same time, his hands-on approach in recent years has set the Colts way back. He stood by coaches like Jim Caldwell, Chuck Pagano, and Frank Reich for way too long. I mean, he's being overly loyal to GM Chris Ballard, who's gotten this club where exactly? Number 21, SHEILA Ford HAMP, Detroit Lions. Ford HAMP's mother, Martha Ford, was too nice to the disastrous tandem that was Matt Patricia and Bob Quinn. So, full credit to Ford HAMP for committing to a scorched earth rebuild and giving the green light to Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes to go through with the Matt Stafford trade. Campbell and Holmes made football fun again in Detroit and have built a promising roster mixed with proven vets and dynamic youngsters. Number 20, Dean Spanos, Los Angeles Chargers. Look, Spanos might not be the most popular owner, especially after relocating the Bolts from San Diego to LA in 2017, but it is hard to ignore recent results. Spanos has stayed hands-off and allowed GM Tom Telesco to build a fun team here led by superstar QB Justin Herbert. Maybe Spanos and Telesco have been too patient thus far with Brandon Staley, but it's also hard to justify firing a coach who has led you to consecutive winning seasons. Number 19, Arthur Blank, Atlanta Falcons. We like Blank because, well, he's hands-off and happily opens his wallet whenever the Falcons brass needs to spend money. But the fact is, Atlanta has endured 5 straight losing seasons, and they have 1 playoff win since their Super Bowl 51 collapse. Number 18, John Mara and Steve Tisch, New York Giants. After 5 straight losing seasons, the G-Men turned a corner and won their first playoff game in 11 years. Does that erase the previous decade of misery under Mara and Tisch? Of course not. But, you know, credit where credit's due. They hit the jackpot by replacing Dave Gettleman and Joe Judge with Joe Shane and Brian Dable. And as frustrated as Giants fans may get with these two, it is hard to complain too much about owners that have overseen not 1, but 2 Super Bowl championship winning seasons. Number 17, Stephen Ross, Miami Dolphins. For many years, Ross was regarded as one of the worst owners in football, and you know, rightfully so. But Miami has endured 3 straight winning seasons, and they ended a 6-year playoff drought in 2022. So, hey, results are results. The Brian Flores firing as head coach looked dumb at first, but Mike McDaniel cemented himself as the perfect coach to unlock Tua Tagovailoa. Number 16, Mike Brown, Cincinnati Bengals. Just 2 years ago, Brown was ranked 28th on our list. But my, oh my, how things can change in such a short period of time. Did he get lucky winning the Joe Burrow draft sweepstakes? Yes. But Brown needs credit for the savvy hiring of Zach Taylor as head coach. And after years of being a cheapskate of an owner, he has been opening up his checkbook aplenty to build a winner around Burrow. Number 15, Gayle Benson, New Orleans Saints. The Saints have gone 54-18-0 since Mrs. Benson took over the team following the death of her husband Tom in 2018. Last season marked the club's first losing campaign under her ownership. She's pretty hands-off and lets GM Mickey Loomis do things as he wishes. Now, on one hand, it is admirable that she doesn't tell her employees what to do. But there's also a case to be made that she should have told Loomis to begin a rebuild after Drew Brees and Sean Payton left. Number 14, Ziggy Wilf, Minnesota Vikings. He got the Vikings one of the fanciest stadiums in football and has accumulated a very solid 154, 134, and 2 records since taking over as an owner in 2005. That includes 2 NFC Championship appearances in 9 winning seasons. Yeah, I think Vikings fans could have it a lot worse. Number 13, Glazer family, Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Glazers were also long regarded as some of the worst owners in football, but the Bucs won the Tom Brady sweepstakes in 2020 and celebrated the franchise's 2nd Super Bowl championship 1 year later. Hard to critique that kind of ownership. Number 12, Amy Adams Strunk, Tennessee Titans. 2022 was the Titans' first losing season under Amy Adams Strunk. Clearly, she's doing a lot right. Adams Strunk has overseen the Titans' rise as a consistent playoff team after a near decade of painful mediocrity. Hiring Mike Vrabel as head coach was the ultimate difference maker, and her patience with him has paid major dividends. Number 11, Jerry Jones, Dallas Cowboys. We once viewed Jerry as a top 10 worst owner in sports, though that was largely due to his obsession with staying loyal to Jason Garrett. So, love her or hate him, Jones has made the right choice to replace Garrett with Mike McCarthy, who led Dallas to a 2nd straight 12-win season. And Jones's track record at the draft table should not go unnoticed. Number 10, Jody Allen, Seattle Seahawks. Well, Allen was smart in trusting John Schneider and Pete Carroll in that dealing Russell Wilson away was in the best interest of the franchise. And hey, now look at the promising state of the Seahawks club. Like her late brother Paul, Jody has stayed out of personnel decisions and has rightfully allowed Schneider and Carroll to build the team how they wish. Number 9, York family, San Francisco 49ers. Like Jerry Jones, it's hard to argue with results. The 49ers are coming off a third NFC Championship appearance in 4 years as John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan continue to build up an NFL powerhouse. So the York family, they're doing just fine. Number 8, Terry and Kim Pegula, Buffalo Bills. After a decade and a half of misery, the Bills have finally morphed back into a relevant football team. The Pegulas hit the jackpot when they hired both Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott, who have built up an annual playoff team and Super Bowl contender. Getting the wheels in motion for the long overdue brand new stadium was also a big time win on their hands. Number 7, Green Bay Packers Incorporated. While the on-field product is usually very good, the Packers' cheapness and free agency eventually caught up to them. Aaron Rodgers couldn't really wait to get out of town, and we're still unsure if the Pack made the right decision moving on from the 4-time MVP. But with a record of 153-87-2 under Mark Murphy's leadership, plus a Super Bowl 45 banner, the Packers can only complain so much. Number 6, Steve Bisciotti, Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens have always had great coaching and management. And you know, that's a testament to Bisciotti's ability to find the right people for the jobs. Baltimore has re-emerged as an AFC powerhouse in the Lamar Jackson era. Bisciotti proved genius for keeping John Harbaugh despite cries to fire him in 2018. And he had no issue handing Jackson the big money that he deserved. Number 5, Stan Kroenke, Los Angeles Rams. What a year and a bit it's been for Kroenke. A Super Bowl 56 championship with the Rams followed by his Colorado Avalanche winning the Stanley Cup a few months later. And a year later, the NBA's Denver Nuggets are celebrating their first ever championship. It helps that Kroenke can spend limitlessly since he has way more money than most other owners. But still, you can't hate on a guy who comfortably watches from the top while trusting his employees and players to do their jobs accordingly. Number 4, Rooney family, Pittsburgh Steelers. Historically speaking, the Rooneys have been the best owners that the game of football has ever seen. 6 Super Bowls speaks for itself, as does the fact that they've had literally 3 head coaches since 1969. Oh, and they haven't had a losing season since 2003. Number 3, Robert Kraft, New England Patriots. The unthinkable has happened. KRAFT is no longer in the top spot on our list, let alone in the top 2. He can simply flash his 6 Super Bowl rings and block out all the criticism forever, but the Patriots just suffered a second losing season in 3 years, and they haven't won a playoff game in 4. Did Tom Brady make both KRAFT and Bill Belichick look better than they actually are? Well, it's starting to look that way. Number 2, Jeffrey Lurie, Philadelphia Eagles. Grade A ownership here under Lurie. He didn't hesitate to pivot away from Doug Peterson and Carson Wentz 3 years after the Eagles won their first ever Super Bowl championship in the 2017 season. Lurie kept Howie Roseman and allowed his longtime executive to rebuild the club his way. Nick Sirianni is a top 5 coach in the game who unlocked Jalen Hurts as an MVP caliber QB. And the next thing you know, the Eagles are just a few short plays away from winning their 2nd Super Bowl. A new long-term winner has been built in Philly, and Lurie's fingerprints are all over it. Number 1, Clark Hunt, Kansas City Chiefs. Like we said, it's hard to argue with results. The Chiefs haven't had a losing season since hiring Andy Reid in 2013. They have won 12-plus games every single year since Patrick Mahomes became the starting QB, hosting 5 straight AFC Championship games and winning 3 of them. Oh, and of course those Super Bowl 54 and 57 championship banners don't hurt. But what changes would you make to our 2023 edition of the NFL Owner Rankings? Let us know in the comment section below. If you like this video and learned a thing or two, clicking the like button helps out a ton. And hey, we appreciate it. If this is your first time coming around to TPS though, subscribing is a great idea because we put out videos like this every single day. But as always, thanks for watching and we'll see you guys next time.